Do you want to be a pro gamer? Because here's an offer you can't refuse. Make the best content you possibly can. Tag it with some company's brand. All for a chance to win the opportunity of a lifetime to join an esports team and live for free in a streamer house mansion. Get famous and become a huge success. Earn Boku Dollar and live the dream of a professional gamer. With only a couple of little technicalities. They don't actually own the mansion. You pay the rent to live there. You pay some of the CEO's rent so he can live there. You have to be successful already. Or a pretty girl. You have to pay a percentage of your winnings to them. You might get fired at a moment's notice. The CEO will most likely hit on you, and hit on you, and hit on you some more. And from what I've seen so far, you don't actually get paid anything from these guys at all. I mean, what young, impressionable, vulnerable gamer wouldn't want to sign up for that, right? Welcome to Regal Reserve esports team, where success is literally its own reward. Copper warning. By watching this video, children under the age of 13 hereby agree to the following terms and conditions. I am allowed to smash all of their toys. Their mum has to make fuck with me. Their dad has to join the French Foreign fucking Legion. All of their siblings will be sold to China for organ donation. And I get to eat all their pets. Seriously, I don't give a fuck if they own a lizard. I'll eat that. Lizard chili. Yummy. You have been fucking warned. Esports is not the usual sort of subject I discuss on the channel for one very obvious reason. Winning in video games is a completely alien concept to me, so why the fuck would I care about video game competitions? However, recently I've been hearing a lot about this esports outfit called Regal Reserve. And yes, I know Regal Reserve sounds like a really shit budget Scotch whiskey. This issue aside, sadly if I was forced, against my will to offer my most humble opinion, I would admit that most of what I've heard about Regal Reserve thus far is rather fucking shady. Regal Reserve is run by this handsome fella, apparently. Although thanks to a lack of transparency, constant references to the quote-unquote other CEOs, whatever the fuck that means, the nature of the company's structure and leadership arrangement is, for want of a better word, incomprehensible. I mean, who the fuck is this guy? They are a relatively new outfit that sprung out of the ether and is currently recruiting young streamers. Mostly girls. Promising them the moon on a stick and generally offering young, desperate kids a golden ticket to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. Sounds too good to be true. Well, obviously it does, and thus far it certainly appears to be precisely that. Untrue. Regal Reserve first came to my attention in a series of videos by the venerable YouTuber, video game commentator and consumer rights advocate, Upper Echelon Gaming. People familiar with my channel will undoubtedly remember him for his excellent videos and his support of other content creators and channels, particularly when they have been threatened by bad actors and shady industry practices. He has leapt to the defence of my channel in the past on more than one occasion, and in the case of Regal Reserve, he became actively curious after they recruited a friend of his, and things went south almost immediately. Absolute full credit needs to go to Upper Echelon regarding this current scenario because he broke this story, did all the hard work, and furthermore, did a fuckton of heavy-duty background research, and I mean real, professional, journalistic research. Basically what I'm saying is, all the credit for this video ultimately resides with Upper Echelon, and all the blame ultimately resides with me. Despite all the fuck-ups, untruths, and the supercell of bad publicity surrounding Regal Reserve, I don't want to sound like I'm coming off as over-judgmental and critical. They seem like a highly motivated and ambitious bunch, and so do the teenage girls that work for them. But they seem to have run off the rails a little bit, and from what I've seen so far, the way Regal Reserve operate is, well, problematic at best. The accusations and allegations being levelled at Regal Reserve from multiple sources include shit like lying about owning a mansion, stating in a later video that the former lie wasn't a lie, but then stating in the same video that they don't actually have the mansion yet. I mean, what the fuck is going on? Not paying staff, sacking staff en masse on a whim, inappropriate behaviour towards female streamers, fucking up charity event payments, using a hacked social media account, getting their social media accounts banned for abusing the terms and conditions, fiddling their social media account metrics, accidentally not paying out prizes for promotions. The list of metaphorical crimes is seemingly endless. I, however, don't believe for a second the list is endless. I mean, the universe is one day going to end in its eventual heat death due to entropy, right? The list has got to stop at some point. Probably. As a PR guy might say, at this point, I think it's uncontroversial to state that Regal Reserve may have made a few missteps. Or as I would say, if these reports are true, they are fucking up harder than a chimpanzee trying to pilot a supertanker through the fucking Panama Canal. But, you know me, I am very literally the wellspring of positivity, a champion for hope. I am the Jeffrey fucking Dahmer of optimism, and I reckon that rather than dwell on the negatives, we should look forwards towards their potential as an organisation and their possible successful future. So with that in mind, instead of criticising them for their past alleged mistakes, I'm going to offer some handcrafted advice so that today we can all collectively learn some valuable management lessons about running an esports operation. And in turn, Regal Reserve can move onwards and upwards. I'm not even charging for this advice, and it's fucking brilliant. So if Regal Reserve watch this video, like what they see and decide to send me a very sizable amount of money, well, being a realist, I'm going to assume Regal Andrew is going to claim he had issues with PayPal payments and the money ain't ever going to fucking show up. Just kidding. Calm your tits. For legal reasons, I am sadly obliged to state the following. Nothing I am about to say is meant as criticism, indictment or judgment of Regal Reserve. Nothing in this video is intended to be an accurate or factual portrayal of real, perceived or fabricated events. This is just my generalised, non-specific business advice inspired by non-expert observations thus far and is not meant in an advisory or factual capacity but merely a means of entertainment, comedy and satire. Since this video discusses issues potentially including false advertising, misdemeanour, crime and possible lapses in corporate responsibility and malfeasance, any attempt to remove this video by any means included, but not restricted to, abusing DMCA legislation may at this time or in the future potentially be deemed to constitute an act of conspiracy by actively abetting these and other acts. But, you know, we're all friends here, and this is just comedy, right? And I'm uploading the video to several other video hosting platforms that don't fucking comply with takedown notices, so, you know, it's on the internet now, like it or not. Anyways, I'm not making any kind of accusations here whatsoever. I'm just offering some friendly, positive, well-intentioned theoretical advice on how better to become wealthy by exploiting the resource of idealistic young gamers and wannabe pro gamers. Besides, if anyone is interested in people who are making accusations, Then Upper Echelon Gaming has publicly posted a big fat fuck of a dossier full of videos, transcripts and DMs detailing the full murky depths of this rabbit hole and just how deep it fucking goes. I would also, however, like to note that I am not in any way white knighting for children or girls in this video. Children are shit. I mean, what are they for? The world would be a much better place without them. And with the possible exception of the hookers I see regularly, most girls are a pain in the arse as well. One minute they were all, "Hi, are you my Uber driver?" Then the next minute they're freaking out for no reason and saying stuff like, "Why are you following me? Why are you wearing a balaclava? Get out of my house, or I'll call the police." The modern rules of dating have just become too complicated for me these days. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that I ain't claiming to be morally virtuous. I'm a fucking deviant. But, in a strange way, this might actually make me uniquely qualified to offer Regal Reserve some guidance on cleaning up their brand image and reaching even bigger successes. But without further ado, 21 kilotons pro tips for improving Regal Reserve's professional reputation. Don't lie about owning a mansion and mislead your followers until you have totally prepared your cover story. I fully appreciate that in today's cut and thrust world of esports, lying and deceiving the people who support you is a necessary cost of doing business. Especially if you don't have much money, and you've lied about that too. But taking the risk of potentially committing a misdemeanor is obviously unacceptable under any circumstances. Unless you have properly prepared the deception in advance. Never half-arse fraud. Whole-arse it. Whole-arse it, hypothetically of course. Anyone can lie. We do it all the time. Lying well is another issue entirely. Here are some examples. Try and spot which one of these statements is most likely to be true. 1. One day the Division 2 will be an excellent game. 2. I'm an astronaut. 3. A young kid who wears rental tuxedos owns a $6 million mansion. Obviously it's number 2, because the Division 2 will always be a disaster, and I was literally about to become an astronaut, but I got drunk and forgot to send in the application. For 11 years. My point is, Regal Reserve's Streamer House competition telegraphed bullshit harder than Lance Armstrong's blood work. Regal Reserve basically ran a recruitment challenge where streamers would compete to win a place in the Streamer House. They had to produce their best work, drape it in Regal Reserve promotional links, hashtags and whatever the fuck. Promote the living fuck out of the company, and then one lucky winner would get to live in the Regal Reserve mansion for free. This mighty fuck palace that must have cost them a fortune. There were other hiccups too. Shortly after a previous recruitment challenge, half of the new recruits got fucked off out the door. Some quit in disgust, and the recruiters who had been working for months pro bono immediately got fired too, without payment or explanation. Pro bono, by the way, is German for muggins who works without getting paid a penny. Pro being the German word for sucker, and bono is a word derived from ancient Latin which means United States dollars. Look, I don't fucking know, it means working for free. I respect what they were trying to achieve here, but the execution was flawed, rushed, and a tad unprofessional. If you're going to bullshit about owning a mansion, it's probably a good idea to take the fucking rental listing down and to do a proper video where you genuinely look like you actually live there. For the record, I've seen MTV Cribs. Okay, I haven't, but nevertheless, I know what it is. If I was shooting a video of my new mansion, I would be doing swooping drone shots. I'd be tracking the camera through 4 ensuite shithouses and doing more tracking shots through the sex dungeons. I would be pimping that shit right up your nostrils until you beg me to stop. I would not film quietly tucked around a corner, huddled up like I was trying to do a sneaky promo without the realtor catching me. You know, just exactly like Regal Reserve did. I would not be copying and pasting stock photos of a realtor's website. I mean, if you own the fucking thing, you can take proper pictures, right? And don't say you didn't have a camera crew. You're rich enough to buy a multi-million-dollar mansion, so fucking hire one. And who is that creepy uncle guy? A minder? A bodyguard? Your probation officer? Big shots don't need to bring their dads along to the photo shoot. I mean, imagine how it would cramp their style if their female streamers brought their dads along to the photo shoots. I don't think they would like that happening at all. Anyway, Regal got busted. They were getting all this free publicity but neglected to actually buy the mansion. A trivial oversight, admittedly. Could happen to anyone. Only yesterday I literally forgot to buy an $8 million mansion. The moral of the story is this: if a company is going to engage in a little bit of fibbing, it needs to do it well. I appreciate their mindset. I get how they were thinking at the time. Clearly they got the idea from Mein Kampf or something. As self-help guru, personal growth expert and mass murderer Adolphus Hitler once said, "If you tell a big enough lie and tell it frequently enough, it will be believed." Unless, of course, you are literally about to invite people to go and live rent-free in that lie, and it turns out you don't fucking own it. Personally, I question the wisdom of Regal's deception here, just as I question the wisdom of trusting the advice of a geezer that started a world war and did genocide as a hobby. But who am I to judge? Just to double down on this stupid, when they previously invited streamers to come and live in a streamer house, they told them that they had to pay 1/8 of the rent each, plus pay to cover the CEO's rent too. Because apparently, despite Regal Andrew living a big life, owning mansions and a giant multimedia corporation, he's too fucking piss poor broke to cover his own fucking rent. This is starting to all sound a little bit pathetic. I would suggest that in the future, Regal Reserve do some serious research about lying, deception and this kind of scam so they can pull it off more successfully next time around. It surely wouldn't hurt if they read up on stuff like Ponzi scams, the collapse of Enron, or read a few Richard Nixon biographies. Credit where credit is due though. Regal Reserve have demonstrated resolve and competency when it comes to erasing the evidence of getting caught out. I think they did themselves proud by deleting the videos and other evidence of these terminological inexactitudes and factual deficiencies. Those are fancy words for bullshit. So yeah, 0 out of 10 for execution, but I'm going to give them 10 out of 10 for damage control. Well, actually, I'm going to give them 0 out of 10 for damage control too, because people had downloaded all of the evidence before it got deleted. You know, it's the internet. For legal reasons, I have to stipulate that when I loosely use the terms fraud and deception, I don't mean that in the literal legal sense. I'm absolutely not accusing anyone of doing it, merely referencing third-party sources and shit angry people are saying on the internet. I use the terms loosely, in the jocular, hypothetical, satirical, friendly sense. When I say misdemeanor crime, yeah, well, that's an issue between them and the popo. It's not my place to judge or comment. Behave more responsibly when violating the terms and conditions of social media platforms. I completely appreciate why sometimes an esports team needs to be a little bit morally bankrupt when it comes to basic human decency, integrity and rules. Sometimes you need to cut a tiny little corner to get there faster. For example, buying shady second-hand hacked social media accounts that might actually possibly be completely fucking stolen. Running bogus promotions where some people mistakenly never end up getting paid. using streamer house competitions to boost channel growth where there isn't really a prize at all, using shady accounts and botting to boost your social media footprint, taking a piss so fucking hard that you get your accounts banned for abusing them. I mean, maybe, just maybe, if the metrics are so properly on the piss that even a Luddite like me noticed something was odd, maybe other people might too. And I'm no expert, I only use social media to DM love poems to my favourite porn stars. These days everyone knows that trust is built on the foundation of a convincing social media footprint, so I think it's time that Regal Reserve got in some professional crooks to operate the bent social media account so they can behave more like professional operations. And AAA publishers. Seriously, if they're going to play that game, they need to outsource it. Lots of AAA video game publishers get into all sorts of completely dodgy, shady shit, completely legally, by just hiring a third-party media company to do all the not exactly legal things for them. Regal would have plausible deniability, keep its hands clean, and most importantly, they wouldn't get busted quite so regularly. Learn from the professionals. Outsource as much naughty business as possible. Make sure you pay your staff properly. At the very least, don't pay them fuck all. Actually, at the very least, don't take their fucking money. Wages and financial rewards is usually one of the first things to be cut when companies are trying to minimise their spend and increase efficiency. Well, I'm going to fly in the face of convention here and suggest a radical approach that I personally think will reap great rewards for Regal Reserve. They should massively increase the money they pay their people. Editors should get an instant, whopping 10% pay rise across the board. Imagine how overjoyed and grateful they'll be when they're getting $22 for a couple of days' work. That shit right there is how to win hearts and minds. With your esports team members, how about you increase their wages by adding 5% to their winnings? So instead of you taking 5% of their fucking money, don't take anything at all. They will feel much more valued once they realise that you are going to pay them nothing, as opposed to paying them less than nothing. Which, logic dictates, actually means Regal are currently charging their team members to work for them. I appreciate that taking a slice off their own winnings and not paying them money is profitable for Regal Reserve, but imagine their glee and excited little giggles when team members actually get to take home all of the money that they earned for themselves. Plus, it's a brilliant way to make people happy while still technically not paying them a single fucking penny. Talking of which, just from the perspective of optics, it would probably be a good idea to start paying something to the horde of people that work their arses off for free and then get periodically fired. Even if it's just a few bucks or some food stamps, at least something to take the edge off the fact that they're being kicked to the curb. Yes, I appreciate that this could potentially create evidence that you have entered into a financial relationship with these people and expose you to potential prosecution. Theoretically, of course. However, I don't think it will expose Regal Reserve to any substantive risk in reality. I mean, these sorry fucks don't have the money to sue the company. I mean, they work for Regal Reserve, so it's guaranteed they're as broke as fuck. With big, high-flying esports operations like Regal Reserve, it's important that the public see that most, or at least some of the people doing the hard work, are getting paid. At all. And if Regal Reserve can't afford to pay people, they should at least lie about it on social media more regularly. Regal Reserve needs to stop leaving such a large pile of bodies in its wake. One thing I respect about Regal Andrew is the whole Pied Piper of Hamelin vibe he has going on. He is a fucking class act. With just his golden tongue, some fancy polyester merch and a rented Lambo stuffed full of attitude, Andrew is successfully recruiting all the proverbial children of Hamlin and leading them out of town. The problem is what he's doing with them afterwards. Metaphorically, of course. Sure, he's skipping off down the road, promising his recruits that he will fulfill their dreams. Everyone is following his organisation, and most of them are doing it for free, or paying him a slice of their earnings to come along for the ride. But the repeated sackings and angry dismissals is steadily building up a huge army of angry former associates. Regal Andrew has a proven track record of shitting down the throats of people that help him. Seriously, I spent half the night reading DMs and statements from his former associates. Not only does he use people, allegedly, but once he has got what he wants, he mercilessly throws them under the fucking bus. Sometimes he is literally abusive when he does it. He literally shit all over his autistic editor. And let's get this clear. This editor was getting paid about $20 a job. Max. Basically, working his arse off for Regal Reserve for sweatshop money. And this potentially is a situation that is going to eventually bite Regal Reserve and Regal Andrew firmly in the arse. And when I say bite him in the arse, I'm talking two giant claws grabbing his hips whilst a huge set of fucking fangs chow down viciously on his pimply-arsed cheeks. There are a ton of reports of Regal pumping and dumping staff. They hire, persuade people to work for them for free. They totally milk people for all they're worth. Then the second they're surplus to requirements, they all get fucked off out the door. Rinse and allegedly fucking repeat. This is creating a rather large pool of pissed off ex-staff who feel disgruntled because they believed the hype, worked for free, then got thrown under the bus. In fact, there is a huge variety of people that formerly were associated with Regal who are disgruntled for many, many reasons, and these complaints are starting to snowball. I've read all kinds of shit from former associates complaining about non-payment, harassment, being verbally abused, being pestered and being hit on, being fired, not receiving fair payment, not receiving prizes. Christ, I read one account where someone was literally terrified of their management. And I mean literally. They scared her. Obviously, these are third-party accounts and I cannot verify them or vouch for their authenticity. But even if they all turn out to be incorrect, exaggerated, fake, malicious or imagined, from a public relations point of view, it doesn't really fucking matter. If there is a small army of people, a fucking giant chorus of voices claiming that Regal Reserve are fuckbags, true or not, substantiated or not, that right there is the PR equivalent of going up on stage in a cocktail dress to collect an award and then shitting your britches when all the TV cameras are pointing right at you. It's unrecoverable. Trust me. I don't know, it paints a negative picture. I'm sure this is absolutely not what is happening. But some people might argue, nasty people, not nice people like me, some cynical people might suggest that Regal repeatedly engages in badly managed operations, then clears the decks of those involved, purging any complainants, participants or witnesses, and they rinse and repeat this fucking process. My advice would be simple. There is a revolutionary capitalist theory that is apparently gaining popularity. Pay people for their work, and don't sack people to cover up the company's mistakes. Okay, I admit that paying people might generate pesky paperwork and evidence of what's going on, but judging from the company's past conduct, I don't think they'll have any problems deleting all the evidence afterwards. Hypothetically. Refine your tactics for deflecting responsibility. I very much respect the fact that Regal Andrew, self-professed CEO, life coach, philosopher, gentleman warrior, And Guru doesn't take personal responsibility for any of the things he does wrong. That's an indication of a strong personality. However, he just can't keep blaming former staff. It's not my fault, it's that nasty child that used to work for me. That sounds pathetic. It shows a lack of control and a lack of awareness of the operation. There are much better strategies. Blame someone who's ill, blame someone who's dead, blame someone who's criminally insane, blame someone that doesn't exist. Even better, blame someone who still works for you and then sack them. This way you get to look innocent and look like someone who takes decisive action. How could Regal Andrew go about implementing this sort of policy change? Okay, I'll just think of a hypothetical situation off the top of my head. This is an entirely made-up example for the sake of argument that I've just come up with on the spur of the moment. Say, next time Regal Andrew needs to blame someone, he should stop and think about it first. Perhaps there's some female streamer that keeps rejecting his romantic advances and now he's grown really pissed off and angry at her. This is a perfect opportunity to blame her and then fire her. Genius. Better than Machiavelli. Kill two birds with one stone. Hypothetically. And metaphorically. I hope it's metaphorically. Stop boasting about being devious, dishonest and manipulative. I recently listened to a response video made by Regal Andrew where he explained some of the art of manipulation. It was an incredibly fascinating insight into the mind of a great contemporary thinker and business leader. Dare I say it, it was inspirational. In fact, it only technically had one flaw. The flaw being, it was a fucking video made by Regal Andrew where he explained how he was manipulating people. Yeah, I don't want to shit in the cake mix here, but I don't reckon that confessing, nay, bragging publicly about being a completely amoral manipulative shit is going to help you manipulate people. There are some things in life where it's best to shut the fuck up whilst you're doing them. Sneaking, shoplifting, spying, and yeah, manipulating your employees. The running commentary of what he was doing was properly hilarious, but not really very smart. I would suggest in future that Regal Reserve does not publicly post videos explaining in detail how they lied and manipulated their staff members just prior to dismissing them. I guess they have come to the same conclusion themselves because they have quickly deleted this video as soon as everyone started to take the piss out of it. Stop it with the whole charity shenanigans. I love the fact that Regal does lots of charity events, and the fact that I've literally seen evidence that at least some of the money sometimes makes it to the charities involved is an added bonus. Albeit not correctly categorised as a charitable payment, causing all kinds of weird financial and filing issues, no doubt. But fucking hell, this whole let's hide behind charity events is so 2015. Seriously, I understand the temptation of using charity as a human shield and hiding behind it. It's a brilliant thing to throw in people's faces when you get accused of stuff. It seems like a great defence, right? Grab a $15 receipt for charity and scream, "Leave me alone! Look, I gave a few bucks to the Cat AIDS charity, so I must be a good person, right?" Sadly, however, I think this ship has sailed. AAA publishers have been thrashing the old charity human shield trick to fucking death for years now. Nobody buys it anymore. It's public knowledge that some AAA publishers insist that their star players and promotional affiliates do charity work prior to enrolling, just as an insurance to counter other accusations of misconduct. "I'm not a shill. I raised $3 for Nambla." Seriously, the number of times I've busted a fucking corporate shill and they immediately start screeching about their charity work. It's pathetic. It's like a skunk fart. Predictable, unpleasant, and leaves a foul smell in the air. And before anyone says it, I know skunks don't technically fart to make a stink. Although I'm sure skunks can technically fart too. That's science, yo. The problem with charity events is that when you fuck them up like Regal did with the streamer Maddie Elizabeth, it creates more bad press than good. Not paying the money over, then paying it over wrong, then charging her for the fucking transaction. I mean, what the actual fuck is that incompetency? By the time this shit had played out, nobody could work out if Regal was thieving, trolling, or just morons. I mean, they're a multi-million-dollar fucking corporation, right? They must have made a PayPal payment before. Perhaps they could get the accounts department to do it. Or is that run by fucking volunteers as well? If they are going to do charity events and then fumble the ball at the point of payment, at least have the common sense to issue an apology and make a token donation to a charity to show good faith. Get some proper insurance and legal cover. I mean, I'm not saying for a second that Regal Reserve have been engaged in illegal practices, shady employment tactics, abusive working conditions, slander, or committing misdemeanours. I am absolutely not implying or accusing them of doing any of those things on multiple occasions. But hypothetically, in a parallel universe, say they did accidentally do some of those things, having a spectrum of insurance wouldn't hurt now, would it? Legal insurance, employer's insurance, public liability insurance, contract insurance. It's always wise to play safe. One of your streamers might get hurt or be attacked on your watch. Who's going to pay for the medical bills? I mean, an 18-year-old streamer can't afford that shit. What happens if one of your streamers gets arrested or prosecuted by the FTC for engaging in illegal advertising campaigns because Regal accidentally forgot some pesky, easily overlooked detail, like the law? The first sign of a grown-up business is that they get insured so that they, and more importantly the people that work for them, are protected. Maybe they sorted this stuff out already, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and postulate the following. A multi-million-dollar media corporation that pays its editors $20 a week, doesn't pay most of its staff at all, and can't figure out how to properly make a charity payment on PayPal without fucking it up twice, almost certainly has not fulfilled its legal and ethical insurance responsibilities. I'm just taking a wild punt here. And let's be realistic. Even if they had decided to get some insurance, judging from past experience, they might well have fucked up the payment. Lose the get-rich-quick con-man style choices. Nothing screams failure louder than posting selfies in front of a rental Lamborghini that you don't fucking own. Okay, possibly taking pictures of yourself in a rental mansion that you don't own says failure a fuck sight louder than that. But we've already covered this. I appreciate that Regal are trying to project an image of winning, an image of wealth, an image that will appeal to the ladies. But fuck, it's got to be done with a smidgen of class. The British royal family own about a third of the United Kingdom between them, and you don't see them posing in front of their Rolls Royces. And if you did, they wouldn't be fucking rentals. They are subtle, low-key, discreet, and they conduct their business quietly and on the down low. Sometimes they even mingle with normal people to show their humility. Regal Reserve has an image problem. I mean, Regal Reserve already sounds like a knockoff whiskey from the bad shops. You know the bad shops. You know the shop you only ever go to when the main shops are closed? If the pound store sold whiskey, it would be called something like Regal Reserve. Probably made in someone's shed in Ankara and relabelled in a garage in Croydon. As a brand, Regal Reserve is trying to look classy in that way that classy people don't behave. People with genuine class don't brag about swag. If they did, the Queen would wear a diamond-encrusted grille and the Pope Mobile would get fitted with that jumping fucking suspension. Regal needs to do a bit of rebranding. It needs to learn to be subtle, restrained. and maybe get another fucking name. Because Regal Reserve, well, that right there is a spectacularly shitty name for an esports team. It's a good name for a shit liquor, a country hotel, or a old people's home. Esports, not so much. And since we're on the subject, the CEO calls himself Regal Andrew. Where the fuck did that come from? I can't work out if he's got a king fixation or he just ran his name through a what's your porn name generator. Project an image of respectability and non-creepiness. I like perving on young women as much as the next pathological creeper sex pest. But #MeToo, dude. Being Me Too'd is a potential threat to any business. It's an even bigger threat if your management are constantly hitting on their female streamers. Hypothetically. Because I'm absolutely not saying that they do that, ever. I'm confident that everyone is so totally professional that many of the accusations that the management are always hitting on the girls are unfounded. Look, I like the workplace sexual politics of 1970s cop shows as much as the next emotionally stunted, simple-minded idiot. But there comes a time when a man has to grow up, mature, comply with the conditions of the restraining orders, and frankly, do the right thing. In this instance, the right thing is accepting that these days, a lot of girls get upset when their boss hits on them. They get especially upset when their bosses, hypothetically, keep hitting on them after they have clearly expressed their total and utter disinterest. A healthy workplace is usually built on a foundation of boundaries. Failing that, pepper spray. Some overly sensitive snowflakes might potentially argue that creating a high-pressure environment where whole swathes of the organisation get periodically instantly fired on the whim of the CEO, combined with management that constantly hit on their female streamers, could potentially, just fucking potentially, be misinterpreted as a slightly abusive environment. Not blaming, not accusing, mind. I mean, just hypothetically thinking this one through. Theoretically, some video game unions might not take too kindly to that. Then again, perhaps you might be able to diffuse the situation by hitting on the union reps too. I reckon Regal Reserve should introduce a set of workable, easily understandable company rules about workplace flirting. I'm going to throw out some random ideas here, not based on anything specific. Just, based on companies I've worked for in the past. 1. Managers should not hit on girls working for the company. 2. Managers should not repeatedly hit on the same girl working for the company. 3. Managers should not repeatedly hit on the same girl working for the company and then continue to do so until it's creeping everyone the fuck out. In fact, as a general principle these days, it's probably considered sensible to deprioritise the impregnation of female workers as part of the corporate culture. My reputation for being a ladies' man has spread far and wide. In fact, last time I checked, it spans 3 entire legal jurisdictions. I consider myself to be a bit of an expert when it comes to romancing the ladies. So my advice to Regal Andrew would be to simply follow 21 kilotons personal rules for seducing the fine young fillies. Rule number 1. When you are chatting up a pretty young girl, watch out for the following telltale signs. If she's looking around a lot, trying to see where her friends are, nervously scratching the back of her arm, and she's giving off the impression that she might actually throw up if you get closer to her, in my expert opinion as a master seducer, it probably indicates she's not that interested. So possibly consider grabbing a copy of Sports Illustrated and heading back to the camper van alone tonight? Sorry, I meant multi-million-dollar mansion, obviously. That's the only rule I've got around to writing so far. But something tells me this is the only rule that Regal Reserve needs at the moment. Personally, I think that the core go-getter philosophy of Regal Reserve is admirable. These guys clearly have a lot of spunk and vinegar. But the main lesson I think I learned, hypothetically and completely theoretically, is that there is a thin line between unswerving enthusiasm and recklessness. There is a difference between determination and heavy-handedness. There is a difference between being ruthless and being fucking cruel. I know I have offered up a lot of suggestions, and this might seem like a daunting list of issues to address, but I'm confident that however Regal Reserve proceed, 2020 is going to be a really high-profile year for them. Something tells me that we're going to see a lot about them in the news. And credit to them for all their hard work and passion. If you have worked with or for Regal Reserve and experienced the full majesty, see what I did there, of their business operation, maybe you have some insights that you might want to share with me. Feel free to reach out to me or Upper Echelon Gaming and recount your experiences, and perhaps we can come up with some more helpful suggestions for how Regal Reserve can up their game. Seriously, if you've worked with these guys, I want to know all about it. Either here in the comments or contact me on Twitter, anonymously if you like. But let's thrash this one out, because I very much want to hear some more first-hand accounts of working with this lovely company. I definitely think that Regal Reserve has a bright, high-profile future in the media. However, I really think they need to take a long, hard look at themselves in the mirror and ask some difficult questions about who they want to be. Their problems go a tiny little bit beyond making the odd mistake here and there. I mean, let me put it into context. Imagine if I set up an esports team based on some of the principles that Regal Reserve have been allegedly accused of recently. And my advert read like this. Take part in the 21 kiloton esports stream house competition. I need tens of thousands of gamers to advertise my channel for free. I will select one young female streamer as a winner. She has to give me a slice of her income. She has to move in with me. She has to pay fucking rent. She has to pay my fucking rent. I will not pay her wages, and I will relentlessly and persistently try and fuck her. I'm not sure any female streamers would be particularly interested in that offer, and I'm as charismatic as all fuck. I am, however, sure that if Regal Reserve was completely honest and transparent about the deal they were striking with their streamers, nobody would be interested in that deal either. But for now, good luck and happy hunting.